If everyone could please be seated, we're chomping at the bit here, ready to go forward. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Welcome to our September 10th council meeting. I'm showing that it's 7:50 p.m. Mrs. Arcisi, please call the roll.
Ms. Darrow. Here. Mr. Engel.
Here.
Ms. Hannikin.
Here.
Mr. Molnar.
Here.
Ms. Tully. Here.
We're going to come to a part of the meeting now where we're going to let these good-looking young guys in the front here from post 801 lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Hopefully you're all in good voice tonight. After that, Jan Tully will say the invocation. Gentlemen, would you like to stand up here possibly, or at the rail, wherever you want, to face the flag and lead us in the pledge?
Okay. Feet in air, and salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As we gather here tonight for the residents of Macedonia, let us take one moment to remember the events that occurred 14 years ago on September 11th, tomorrow, the day that will stay in America's hearts and minds forever. I remember getting the call from my client in New York City, and when we talked, I told him our technician would be there shortly, and he told me to turn on the TV. That he had not made it into the office yet, but he knew we would not be installing anything that day. Yes, he did work in the World Trade Center. By the hand of God, was delayed in leaving for work that day. As I turned on the TV, I witnessed the second plane hit the towers. I heard of the plane over Pennsylvania and immediately tried to call our son, who went to school in Pennsylvania, not knowing that there were heroes on that plane that would stop it from getting to their target in D.C. To those at the Pentagon who thought it would be just another workday, I think that's what all of America thought that day, just another workday. For my clients in their meeting at the top of the Towers restaurant who didn't make it out. For the rescue teams of firefighters, policemen, transit police who didn't hesitate to go to the towers to help. And the eerie conversation I had with one of our folks who was in the subfloor offices below the tower, who thought the flickering lights was the usual teasing of his workmates until he climbed the steps out of the subfloors into the carnage of human lives. We pray for all that lost their lives that day, for those who lost family members, co-workers, heroes. We pray for all those who worked at the scenes trying to make sense of senseless events. Let us bow our heads and remember and pray for peace. Thank you.
That's probably one of the best pledges of allegiance and invocations I ever heard. Thank you. Proclamations is next on the agenda, and let me talk a little bit more. Only this time we're not giving proclamations out. The city of Macedonia received proclamations. There was one for our fire department, one for the city. They came from the Veterans of Foreign Wars of Twinsburg, Post 4929. They presented to the mayor and the fire department these commendations for supporting the Twinsburg Cost of Freedom ceremony for meritorious and distinguished service in furthering the aims and ideals of the Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States, given this 15th day of June 2015. We're very honored to get this. Thank you very, very much, and we're only too honored to participate. Moving on, tonight we get to the section of the meeting for comments by the public. We ask that you come to the front, please. We have names on a list. We will call you by name. We're going to limit your comments, please, to 5 minutes because we have a lot of business to do tonight. And this evening, we're starting with Dan Havlicek. Dan?
Thank you, Mayor. My name's Dan Havlicek. I live at 8310 Shepherd Road. I've lived in the city since 1957. I went to school here. I graduated. I've been here and owned 2 houses here in the time I've been here. I've also served 7 tours in the United States Navy. That means I am over 20 years, which basically means, ladies and gentlemen, that I'm subject to recall until I'm below the grass. It's that simple. I'm delighted, as a matter of fact, that some of my fellow veterans are here. And I've been with them for over 4 years. I asked them, well, as a matter of fact, I was going to ask our possible mayoral candidate, but since they're here, I asked them if they can explain to me what an SAL member is. Because I just received this today in the mail. This is our flyer for our 801 post. And it says, quote, new SAL member, Joe Migliorini. So either if Joe would care to explain, or one of these gentlemen would care to explain to me what an SAL member is, because I've never heard of it before. And I just found out this today. The other thing I wanted to say is, who voted on this SAL member? I'd like to know what the vote was. We have a total of 68 people as of yesterday in our American Legion meeting, American Legion group. So did the 68 vote on this? And if they did, then they missed me. If the 68 didn't vote on this, then who did vote on this SAL membership? Mr. Migliorini, in his own website, said he was a member of the VFW. I asked Mr. Migliorini about that at the last council meeting. He informed me he was an honorary member. I asked a number of over 60-year-old VFW members if they had ever heard of an honorary member. They all said no. They said they've heard of a social member, but never an honorary member. So I have a question on that one also. So now we come to something else I heard very distressing yesterday. And this member who told me this is a 20-year veteran of the United States Navy. His name is Jim Sabo. He heard some comments from some other people that Mr. Migliorini's wife made some rather derogatory comments about American Legion members. I find this very distressing because here's someone who wants to be the next mayor of this city, and his wife is going around saying things about American Legion people that aren't very nice. Okay. How much time, Mr. Migliorini, will you devote to the running of Macedonia if you become mayor, when you have a $625,000 house 2 steps away from the Atlantic Ocean in Florida? I know if I owned that size house, or any house for that matter in Florida, I'd spend my winters in Florida because I'm not real fond of shoveling snow. I've been doing it since I was 6. So can any of you people explain to me what an SAL member is? I know this is my commander.
You know what? This isn't city business.
Right, he's
We
gonna
would
say-
I was
want.
going to say that this is American Legion business. It's not subject.
All right, I didn't expect you here, but Mr. Migliorini, perhaps he can explain
No,
what SAL is.
we'd like to move to the next one, please, Dan.
Okay. Why do you have 2 driver's licenses? One for Florida and one for Ohio?
This isn't city business. if
No,
you-
but it impacts on the city's laws.
That's
Well,
politics.
Yeah, we're talking politics now, and we want to try and keep away from it, Dan,
Well,
please.
speaking of politics, Mayor, I'm sad, very saddened, that my American Legion post has dragged politics into this. I don't think it should be there. As a matter of fact, the second vice commander made it very clear last night that there's no place for politics in the American Legion. Well, as I said, I'm very saddened to find out that that necessarily is not the case. And by the way, these 6 that sit here, none of them served 20 years. Thank you.
All right, moving on, we have Kathy Loya. Kathy?
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity tonight. My name is Kathy Loya. I live at 9186 North Bedford Road. I have a couple of pictures if I could pass these around so you guys look at it, if you don't mind. Thank you. It's just new developments that we've noticed this summer happening on our property in regards to stormwater. First of all, we've seen a dry month of August and an early month of September. I would just like to remind council that stormwater in the city of Macedonia is a big problem and that it can no longer be overlooked. Please do not be complacent during these dry times and forget about the severe flooding that happens in the city during times of severe rains and also snow melts. I've been expressing since January of this year, along with many other years, my concerns about flooding on my property and the potential impact that new projects are going to have on my current situation. Most specifically, the completion of the expansion of 271, which we're expecting to see more rain runoff, and also Ledge Road, when that whole project gets completed in regards to the railroad bridge and then also the repavement of the road. In my opinion, more stormwater will be diverted to my property, which already cannot handle the current amount that we receive. Nothing has been done to address the outflow of water from my property, but certainly more water has been diverted into my property. My property serves as a great retention area for this water, but why has the outflow never been addressed? Is it that there might not be any type of solution? Since my husband and I have moved to our property in 2005, the city of Macedonia has spent $0 on stormwater management on our property. My husband and I have done that. Not a dime has been spent to fix or divert or maintain a stormwater tributary that runs behind our property that's used by the city to collect runoff from Ledge, North Freeway, South Freeway, 271, and then it diverts the water under North Bedford Road into Indian Creek when it finally continues to flow downstream. In fact, I've asked many times, who is responsible for this tributary? We've done what we can, but as private homeowners, how can we be expected to maintain a public tributary for stormwater management, which is seeing increasing amounts of water annually? Tonight, there's an ordinance on the agenda for a real estate purchase of parcel 3300726. I can appreciate the stormwater damage and concern for this property owner, but with all due respect, what about the stormwater and damage and concerns expressed by other Macedonia residents? I believe that the same offer for the appraisal and then proposing entering into a real estate contract to purchase property should be extended to other residents with similar stormwater related problems, starting with 9186 North Bedford Road. Since we moved to our property, expenses to keep water out of our basement have been quite substantial and not always successful. Our largest amount of water in our basement was approximately 8 feet, floor to ceiling, in 2006, and then again in 2011 with 3.5 feet. Thankfully, our pumps have been able to pump out water since then, especially this past May and June, and even into July when we saw so much water. Focusing so much on keeping our home dry has exhausted resources to what we can do outside. Again, if there is anything that can be done to prevent such high amounts of water infiltrating our yard. Since moving to our property in 2005, the feds, through FEMA, have recognized the worsening of our stormwater situation by changing our flood status in 2009 from a C zone to an AE zone, requiring flood insurance to be purchased by the homeowner. The additional routing of stormwater by public entities through my private property has changed my flood status. Again, not a dime of city money has been spent on any type of maintenance and or improvement of our stormwater situation. We've done it, and we're still floundering in times of severe rains. We now have been, we've recently seen the expansion of what appears to be a sinkhole, which is the pictures that I'm sending around, forming in our back property where the majority of our rain sits for hours at a time. These pictures show where the hole is forming, and I've talked with Nick Feeney about that as well. And this is in addition to the erosion that we do see of the tributary. So in closing, similar to the request made by my husband, which we researched back on the council meeting from March 24th of 2011, I'm respectfully asking the City of Macedonia for the same consideration given to parcel 3300726 with respect to acquisition of an appraisal, and then for the City of Macedonia to purchase our property at 9186 North Bedford Road. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Feeney, what's the status on the engineering? I'm sorry, Mr. Feeney, what's the status on the engineering study that council had authorized your firm to take in this area regarding flooding?
Surveying is being conducted, so
When you
that's
say
just been
surveying,
scheduled. The surveyors are going to be on site shooting elevations and locations of existing topographic features so that the modeling can be created,
so when will the surveying be completed?
probably within a month.
Okay, and then the modeling will be done within a month after that?
Correct.
At which point then we'll have
We'll have some alternatives, some analysis to present to you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Feeney.
All right, next on the list this evening is Dave Christash. Dave?
Mayor, Council, I'm here representing American Legion Post 801. Actually, I'm not a resident of Macedonia. I live in Brexville. But I'd like to say that we appreciate all the work that is being done by the city, and we are honored to be able to bring a memorial here that we've been working on for the veterans. And I understand there's a renaming the park to the Veterans Park, which we also appreciate. And it's, I think it's something long overdue. Many of us are Vietnam War veterans, and the reception we got when we came home was less than desirable, let me say. And this goes a long way to make some of us feel better that from things in the past where we didn't get the reception we're getting here. So I just wanted to say that we're very happy to be working with you, and your support is greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Next on the list is Joseph Miglerini.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I have to laugh a little bit because I'm thinking about a time when Bob Fitzgerald, who was a resident of our community, would come up to the podium when we'd call on him, and he'd go, I've been a resident here for 38 years, or whatever the number was at that time, but it was a lot of years, and I have been a resident of Macedonia for 38 years. So in fact, I found it humorous that I have to stand up here, and I never thought I was going to be in Macedonia for 38 years, but I've been here for 38 continuous years, by the way. So, I live at 1182 Mig Court in the city of Macedonia, and shortly we'll be moving over to the villas if anybody's looking to find out where I'm living. So I say that because it seems like everybody needs to know where I'm at. I also would like to congratulate Jan Tully, Grandma Jan Tully, for her newest addition, Emma. And congratulations, and I know that's why you weren't here at the last meeting or so.
Thank you.
The item that I do want to talk about tonight is Republic Waste. And I think it's great that the city has negotiated a great deal with Republic Waste, and they have provided the city and all of our residents with containers. But it has caused some problem within the city. For instance, in the villas at Taormina, the residents over there want the 65-gallon units as opposed to the 95-gallon because they're so big and they're so bulky, and they have to try to pull them in and out of their garages. But what I really see that's occurring in the city is that all of these cans now are being left either out in front of garages or on the side of garages, and they're not being placed within the garage. I feel that we need to do something, maybe contacting Republic Waste about asking them to provide them smaller containers so that they can get them in their garage, because I know that this is probably one of the larger complaints that I've heard, is that they need smaller containers. The 65s are a lot more manageable, especially if you're a senior citizen, so that you can pull them in and out of the garage. I know it's not a big issue, but it's one that I continue to hear within the city as I have talked to people.
Actually, Joe, I think we've had people right along ask for those. Haven't they received them?
Yeah. Well, they've run out of them, actually.
They've run out of them?
They've run out of the.
So that's why I didn't get mine then, I guess.
Yeah, the 65-gallon ones seem to be very hard
Those
to
are
get,
the challenge.
and that is
We
definitely.
need to ask them to step that up then,
Yeah.
I think, you're right.
I also like to comment about the stormwater issue, and I appreciate Kathy getting up here and talking about her stormwater-related problems. You know, this city, over all the years that I can think, has always had stormwater-related problems, and we have tried to attack them on every front that we possibly could. We've always lacked the funds, if you will, to attack stormwater-related problems to the degree that you're taking the steps now to buy out the Gabriel home, which I think is something that the city should do. But I need to emphasize this, is that problem that exists with many of the homes in our city was because when those homes were built back in the 60s, there was no topography required, meaning that the homeowner or the developer and the builder of the home was not required to go and get a topography to set the elevation of that house. So a lot of times they sat those homes at the bottom of a bowl, if you will. And so when you do get heavy rains, those rains come in and flood those homes. And I can appreciate what you're saying. I think necessary steps do need to be made, and I appreciate where you say you live, and 271 and the water runoff that's coming off of 271 now, I think needs to be addressed. And hopefully Nick can get in contact with the Department of Transportation to make sure that something is looked at, especially for those that live in and around the North Bedford Ledge area, because it's truly a problem. And I appreciate your bringing that forth. Lastly, I know I'm running out of time, and this is on a maybe this is not the public arena that I should be doing this, but it's a challenge to you, Sylvia. And the challenge is that, you know, when I entered into this election to run for mayor, I wanted to take the high road, meaning that I wasn't going to throw stones or do anything else. So I challenge you that you should take the high road. I pledge that I'm not going to throw stones. I think each of us should run on the merits and run on our ability to govern this city. And if you are willing to pledge that, I'm willing to pledge that right now, saying I will not throw stones.
Let me just say this. We all were running on our record, and our public record, not personal issues. I agree with that. Not said anything about you personally, Joe. In fact, you and I have always reasonably well gotten along. But what has happened as far as our public record, I think, is fair game. So I don't know if you call that throwing stones, but anything that has been part of the government process that we're doing, I think is fair game. So I will pledge you there will be no personal attacks. And as you know, I've supported you at times when others weren't.
Well,
but
the reason I bring this up to you, Sylvia, is that I know that you have requested all of my records of the Parkview subdivision, of the villas at Terramina. You've called the Port Authority. If you would have called on me, or in fact, I could have probably referred you over to Kurt Lombinger, who's attorney, pulled all those records back in 2008. The city has to go out and spend time and money to retrieve all those records. I would have been more than happy to produce them for you. I have them sitting in my office. You can come to my office anytime and see them. I have them all.
I do too. Thank you.
All right, moving on. Dave Lacey, you're satisfied you had your say. Moving on to Greg Gamula. Greg?
I'll rescind my request to take the floor.
Okay, you're all spoken for, so I'm sorry, I didn't know your last name. Now I do. Okay, thank you. All right, that's it this evening for public comments. So we're going to move right into pending and/or new legislation, starting with ordinance number 52, 2015.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer ordinance number 52, 2015 to stay its second reading.
An ordinance amending section 37503 of the codified ordinances relating to snowmobiles, off-highway motorcycles, and all-purpose vehicles.
Moving on to ordinance number 97, 2015.
Mr. Mayor, I request ordinance 97, 2015 remain at second reading.
Thanks a lot.
An ordinance completely repealing the existing ordinance, section 117119 of the codified ordinances, donation boxes prohibited, and adopting new ordinance 117119, which regulates donation boxes and creates a permitting process.
Moving on, ordinance number 99, 2015.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer ordinance number 99, 2015 for second reading by title only, please. Holding
Hold it
it,
at
holding
second.
it at second.
An ordinance providing for a senior snow removal program for the 2015-2016 winter season.
Okay, before we move on to ordinance number 110, 2015, I'd like to interject something here. These next ordinances are going to be spending money. And before we go on with them, I would like to give our present general fund balance. The balance in our general fund is $3,027,616.13. Moving on, ordinance number 110, 2015.
Mr. Mayor, I offer ordinance number 110, 2015 for its first, second, and third reading by title only, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance authorizing the purchase of two 2015 Freightliner trucks from Valley Freightliner, Inc. of Cleveland for the use by the Macedonia Service Department for snow plowing and other duties.
And what's your pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, I ask that we pass and post ordinance number 110, 2015 according to law.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Darrow?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Ms. Hannikin?
Yes.
Mr. Mulner?
Yes.
And Ms. Tully?
Yes.
Moving on, ordinance number 111, 2015.
That would be me. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer ordinance number 111, 2015 for its first, second, and third reading by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance authorizing the financing of two 2015 Freightliner trucks through Mercedes-Benz Financial Services USA LLC, payable in 5 annual installments.
And what's your pleasure?
I move we pass and post ordinance number 111, 2015 according to law.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Darrow?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Ms. Hannikin?
Yes, this is the financing component of purchasing these two new trucks, and we are on a 5-year purchase plan that will be $60,000 a year.
Mr. Mulner?
Yes.
And Ms. Tully?
Yes.
Ordinance number 111 passes. Moving on to 112, 2015.
Mayor, I offer ordinance 112, 2015 for its first, second, and third reading by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance appropriating a transfer from the general fund to Service Department account 401-401-5641 for the purchase of two Snow Dog municipal grade snowplows for Concord Road Equipment Manufacturing.
And what's your pleasure?
Before I go there, Mayor, I just want to point out that when you buy a truck, you have to have it outfitted with the equipment to plow snow, so that's what this is encompassing. I move that we pass and post according to law, ordinance 112, 2015.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Darrow?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Ms. Hannigan?
Yes.
Mr. Mulner?
Yes.
Ms. Tully?
Yes.
Moving on, ordinance number 113, 2015.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer ordinance 113, 2015 for first, second, third reading by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance appropriating a transfer from the general fund to Service Department account for the annual inspection of the bucket truck and for the city mechanic to attend training for emergency apparatus maintenance.
And what's your pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we pass and post according to law ordinance 113, 2015.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Darrow?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Ms. Hannigan?
Yes.
Mr. Mulner?
Yes.
Ms. Tully?
Yes.
Ordinance number 114, 2015.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer ordinance 114, 2015 for its first reading by title only.
An ordinance appropriating a transfer from the general fund to law department to meet the obligations for the balance of 2015.
Moving on, ordinance number 115, 2015.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer ordinance number 115, 2015 for its first, second, and third reading by title only, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance appropriating a transfer from the general fund to the fire department for vehicle repairs.
Ordinance number 116, 2000. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, what's your pleasure?
My pleasure is that we pass and post according to law ordinance number 115, 2015, please.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Darrow?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Ms. Hannigan?
Yes.
Mr. Mulner?
Yes.
And Ms. Tully?
Yes.
And now we're going to move on to ordinance number 116, 2015.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer ordinance 116, 2015 for first, second, and third reading by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a real estate purchase contract for permanent parcel 3300726 for the amount of $156,000 and appropriating that amount.
And what's your pleasure?
I have a question of Mr. Deemer first. It's my understanding, Mr. Deemer, that under the contract, the cities will be responsible for the closing costs, and so this would be net to the Gabriels. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right, thank you. With that explanation, I move that we pass and post according to law ordinance 116, 2015.
Second.
I'm sorry, was it you, Ms.
Second.
Hannigan?
She's, Sylvia seconded.
Thank you. Ms. Darrow?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Ms. Hannigan?
Yes.
Mr. Mulner?
Yes.
Ms. Tully?
Mr. Gabriel has faced some situations for, gosh, we've talked a lot. But Mrs. Loyal also brings up some very important points. What we're doing is setting a precedent to help a resident, a very known issue that we should help take care of. We can't ignore the others that also face this type of situation. So we need to recognize that what we're helping with Mr. Gabriel, which is long overdue, we may need to take a look again at, I can't remember your address specifically, I just know it's on North Bedford. I vote yes.
You know, it's so nice to have what just transpired here happen. It's been a long, long time since your city could sit down, buy some trucks, fix some problems that have existed for years, all with a single stroke of the pen. That's coming a long way from when we had people laid off, safety forces laid off, things that were, it was a struggle just to keep our doors open. So that's why I mentioned at the beginning that we have some money, and we never had that for so long. So It's really great to be able to come here and react to the needs of our residents and do what's needed because we can afford it. Back in the old days, it was always, I'm sorry. So that was quite a feat tonight. Now we're going to move on to the resolution number 117, 2015.
Mr. Mayor, I offer resolution number 117, 2015 for its first, second, and third reading by title only, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
A resolution renaming the Macedonia Memorial Park located at State Route 82 and South Bedford Road to Veterans Memorial Park.
And what's your pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, I request that, I move that we pass and post resolution number 117, 2015 according to law.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Gerald?
Yes?
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Ms. Hannigan?
Yes.
Mr. Mulner?
Yes.
And Ms. Tully?
I'm very enthusiastic for this as being on the Parks and Rec Board, not for 38 years, but it sure seemed like it sometimes. We've had to put off what was going on at Memorial Park because of Route 82 going to be widened, and then the bridge was going to be widened, and then Route 82 is going to be widened, and then the bridge is being widened. Now we're back to Route 82. I am very pleased. I only ask for one request, that we somehow make sure that we honor Colonel Eugene C. Peck. He served 2 enlistments with the 23rd Army Corps during the Civil War. He is the gentleman who owned that farm property. He is the gentleman who gave that farm property to the town of Macedonia. He's the gentleman who raised the buildings on the property and erected the gazebo. He raised cattle on that farm. It's hard to believe that that is what existed. And also, Colonel Peck was the mayor of the town of Macedonia in 1917. So however we can incorporate either a plaque or a sign, I think it's something we need to make sure we take care of, because we wouldn't have that piece of property if it wasn't for the colonel and his family. So I heartily vote yes. Thank you.
How sweet it is. And we want to make sure that everyone realizes it's Veterans Memorial Park, not Macedonia veterans or veterans from any specific area. This is for all veterans to come and enjoy the solitude we hope you get by coming to this park when we're finished with it, and it's going to be nice. So thank you for coming tonight, fellas. Moving on, are there any other motions or legislative actions?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we go out for an appraisal for the property located at 9186 North Bedford Road. I think since we set a precedent this evening for a property with the severity that has occurred, I think we need to continue to do that. I'm one of the strongest proponents of stormwater, given the fact that I work in the field, and I think that what I've seen on that property is one of those that's pretty bad. And I think we need to extend that same hand to you guys for your property, so I make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Before we vote,
Aye.
may I make a comment?
Oh, fine. Discussion on this, on the motion. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Mayor. It's not that I am opposed to purchasing additional property, and I was going to talk to Mrs. Leah after the meeting and say that, but I think the issue here is that their property is in an area that we're in the midst of doing an engineering study.
Yes.
And the reason that the Gabriel property was purchased, or one of the major reasons, was the engineering department had concluded that there was no way to alleviate the problem other than to tear down the house and put in a retention pond. I understand that the people want to have a resolution of the stormwater problem as quickly as possible, but I really think we need to wait until the engineering study is done. I know that the surveys takes longer than people want, but it's supposed to be done in a month, and then the modeling. I'd like to wait until we do that. I think that is the proper way to handle this.
Any other discussion on the motion?
I'd like to keep in mind that all I'm asking for at this point is an appraisal.
Yes, I think that it's premature also, as long as, because we have gone through a process where, and Mrs. Loya did ask us to do this, where
We spent 50.
where the engineering, we are spending close to $50,000 on engineering study of the entire problem area.
Right.
And not just your property, but several properties along that same area, plus along the Ledge Road area. There have been a number of properties also affected by, as you said, runoff from 271 and some other issues. There have been 2 residents that have offered to part of their property, they have large properties for detention ponds, and that may, we don't know at this time, but it may in fact correct the issue that everyone along there is having, which is the pressure from that water coming towards your home. As you say, you managed to survive the summer without having a water to the top of your basement again. I think it's reasonable and rational to delay any movement on this until we've had the results. If there is a solution to this, then there are some ways to handle it, and one of them, you're in a floodplain, so we may be available for a FEMA grant in addition.
Mm-hmm.
So I think my own opinion again, is that we follow the course of action that we set in July, and that we find out if we can reasonably do something to correct this problem with detention ponds. If not, then I think we've got another whole set of issues there, because it is a very difficult area to manage. I can see it, everybody can see it who's been over there. So just my thought, let's hold off on this. I wouldn't vote for a motion tonight, but after we get the results, then we may, we'll have to come back and consider all this.
It's already on the floor and it's been seconded, so.
We have a motion and a second. Do you want to act on that motion? Let me call the question.
Ms.
All
Darrow?
in, go
Ms.
ahead.
Darrow?
No.
Mr. Engel?
No.
Ms. Hannigan?
No.
Ms. Tully?
Mr.
Did you
Mullen?
skip
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Molnar?
May I ask a question before I vote? I'd like to ask, is that something you would want?
Yes.
Yes.
And Ms. Tully?
After working on the Stormwater Committee for several years, after bringing it to this council when I returned to council, and last year it was not really considered, I don't know how you can sit here and choose one property over another when it's been proven time and time again through pictures, through the studies, through all the work that was done previously, that we have a serious issue in that location. I vote yes.
Moving on, are there any other motions or legislative actions this evening? Hearing none, is there any correspondence from the clerk?
No, sir.
Moving on to the mayor's report. Mrs. Tully and I are on the same page about a lot of things, so I don't want to sound too redundant here, but maybe I can add a little bit to it. A lot of people don't realize that when those towers came down, besides all the casualties that were involved with that, there were injuries. Today, 14 years later, 71,000 people are still suffering from injuries from there. Some of them had multiple injuries. Some of them had loss of body parts. So 14 years later, we still have people suffering every single day with those injuries. We also, from there was a lot of people with that building when it went down and there was all that stuff in the air, got cancer. So one way or another, it's still killing people. How sad it is. We should never forget the brave men and women who continuously watch over us and our freedom, but both overseas and here with our safety forces. God bless them all. After hearing about Colonel Peck donating Memorial Park last council meeting, you know what? You can Google his name. It's really a history lesson. It has a lot of informational and fascinating glimpses of the early Macedonia. Colonel Peck did donate the property, did build the gazebo, and John is nodding when you were talking, Jan, that we are going to make sure that people know that by putting a plaque on with the date that it was built and the colonel's name. He built a lot in Macedonia. There was a group of stores right around Route 82, back where the old Blue Willow was. Heck, it was a building near there. All right, I can't tell you exactly where it was, but it was a building in that area, and that had our first bank, that had our first stores. But the thing that fascinates me about that building, it burned down and it was never rebuilt. But it was the headquarters of Joslin Manufacturing. Joslin Manufacturing is still in Macedonia today. They're on Valley View Road. They must be here 50 years. So to me, that was absolutely amazing. He also owned property along Route 634, Valley View Road. I'm sorry.
631.
631. Sorry about that. 631 is Valley View Road. Where was that property? Well, we're kind of thinking about it and coming up with the idea that we think it was the old Johnson Manor. And if you don't know what the old Johnson Manor was, today it's Faith Fellowship Church. And there's a lot of property there that is owned by that church, but it was a manor before that. So Colonel Peck was quite a fan of Macedonia, beside being a mayor, and did a lot for our community when it was in its infancy. So I agree wholeheartedly, we've got to give him some kind of recognition for all that he did for our city. Today was the annual State of the City report at a luncheon at Spinato's in Northfield. Macedonia is alive and well. We're getting stronger as the infrastructure is improved. Right now, we're in the process of doing more than $50 million worth of initiatives to our infrastructure. And that includes the I-271 widening and the new northbound ramp being in full swing today. More will be forthcoming on Route 82 in the next year to address the east-west movement. Economic development is strong, and the only question mark that actually remains about this town's storefronts is Sears. I don't know, probably all of you know, Sears moved out, and so far we're not getting too far with having someone fill that store. I've made numerous calls to the owner of the property, but usually I would call him to yell about the road, so he doesn't answer my calls too well. But, you know, that road over there is a real challenge.
Well, they've been improving it.
They've been improving it now, finally.
Yeah, I know. I was wondering when were they gonna collapse totally before they did that?
Well, let's put it this way. I think they saved a little bit of money when they built it and didn't make it like it should be. So, remember, our senior center programs are now offering a variety of weekly hot lunches, bingo parties, potluck socials, game room activities, movies, popcorn, informational speakers, and the best part, it's open to all Nordonia seniors, not just Macedonia. And as always, I have to report every month that our total revenue from our courts from August was $43,073.50. Moving on, do we have any committee reports?
There
Here.
will be a Parks and Recreation meeting. We've scheduled this for September 30th at 7 o'clock at the Recreation Center. The public is always welcome to come. We do ask for public comment. We are taking a look at the future of the Recreation Center and the parks. We deal not only with the parks, it's parks and recreation. So it's not just the facility up there, it's also Longwood Park, Memorial Park, Sugar Bush. We talk about all of them and where we would like to see the future go. So you're more than welcome to come join us and provide your updates. We're also going to be putting out a survey to the residents so that you can give us your feedback, as well as those who attend the rec center today, because we have a lot of non-residents who pay non-resident fees to be there. We're very much interested in where do you see us going. We're to the point of having the building paid off, and when we renew the tax that was paying for that, what do we want to do with it? Do we want an outdoor pool? Do we want a water park? Do we want trails? What would we like to see? And that's all the game plan that we're going to take a look at. The Recreation Center does have its annual closing coming up. That's why the meeting's been pushed out to the end of September. Thank you.
When was that meeting?
The 30th, September 30th. 7
September
p.m.
30th. And it's on, oops, it's on the agenda. Josephine added it on, so you'll know. 7 o'clock.
Mayor, may I add something about the charter amendments? May I?
Oh, yes.
The Board of Elections recently issued the numbers for the November ballot. So Macedonia's 6 charter amendments will be issues 41 through 46. The ordinances and the ballot languages are on the website, our city's website. I've identified which issue number is associated with which amendment, and it is also incorporated in the e-messenger, and the issue numbers will be identified in the October version of the e-messenger.
Thank you very much, Mrs. RCC. You can always count on Josephine to get that important stuff out. Are there any other committee reports this evening? Hearing none, let's move on to department reports, starting with you, Mike.
Thanks, Mayor. The Marriott is going to be resubmitting to the Planning Commission. They're looking at 3 floors this time in an L shape. I haven't seen full drawings on it yet, but they did make some calls to us and said they were going to be resubmitting. Vista Springs is moving along good, and we're looking at an occupancy nearing in October. They're bringing 70 jobs to the community, and they're looking for Macedonia residents, so if anybody is looking for a job, they can look at Vista Springs. Enclave is moving along well and is nearing completion on more units, and there's a waiting list to get in, so we can't work fast enough on it. That concludes my report.
Very good. Thank you. Nick?
Thank you, Mayor. Update on the Ledge Road Bridge per correspondence today. Looks like the contractor is going to be starting towards the end of September, roughly September 28th. There was an issue with the concrete mix design. It still appears like it's lingering. Contractor has indicated that he's starting with or without that resolution with the railroad, so we'll be curious to see how that plays out. There will be a traffic change on 271 northbound this weekend, beginning Sunday evening through Monday morning. They should complete the shift prior to morning rush hour. So if you're traveling northbound, they're going to be shifting traffic onto the inside, the new pavement lanes and bridges, so that they can set up their work zone to work on the outside. Then the following week, on September 20th, they'll be doing the same thing with the southbound traffic. So work's progressing on that project, and the relocated north ramp is still on schedule for the opening. That's all I have, Mayor.
Nick, could I ask you about the OLG detention basin?
Yeah, we're still on track for the September 18th completion, which is next Friday.
So we expect to, by then, be able to do what exactly?
So we'll have the drawings done. We'll have to resolve the issue with the rights to the property. Again, whether that's an easement or an acquisition, which we really can't do until the design's completed.
Okay. I did check out the residential roads again. I do see that we've have white lines painted on each
Right,
side of the road.
striping's been completed,
We have some
shoulders are done.
striping.
We still have punch list items that need to be resolved prior to closing that out.
Okay. Were they intending also to put the divider down the middle of the road, or is that never going to happen? In other words, do we have a yellow or a white line going down the middle?
You know what, I can't recall. Let me check the contract
we can
documents.
check that
I believe there was a provision for the solid double yellow, but let me check the contract documents.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out when they're going to be done. The roads are certainly a lot better than they were, and we're very happy that we've gotten that part of the story completed, but I'd like to know what we're doing to finish.
Nick,
All right.
I have a question for Nick. Nick, I happened to run into an engineer that works for ODOT, and they're doing the 271 widening. And he said that, I could ask the city engineer. It was spoke here tonight about the runoff from 271, the widening. He said that is completely false. The water is diverted properly, and there is no runoff from 271 widening into anybody's properties. And he said that you should be able to clear that up for everybody.
If you like, I can report on that.
Yeah,
If you,
I
if
would.
you would like me to, I can.
Yeah,
Yes, I
that would be great, because I've already heard it twice from two different residents.
too.
And I talked extensively with this engineer. I just happened to get lucky and I got to meet this engineer that happened to be working up on 271, and he happens to be an engineer. And he said that if I have any questions, I should talk to my city engineer, because you should be able to answer that for us.
Yeah, I can answer
And
that for you.
that is not, the water runoff is properly done on
It's
any highways.
Properly
and,
done in accordance with ODOT's requirements. I'd be curious to
exactly.
know who you spoke with as well.
I will let you know
Thank you.
after the meeting.
Okay.
Moving on, Tim.
Mayor, I'd like to thank the veterans, the American Legion, for coming in tonight, and specifically one that I would like to welcome to our meeting, Bob Zarro, all the way down at the end. Bob, can I ask you a couple questions?
Yes, sir.
How long were you in the military?
4 years, 3 years,
3 years. And how long did you serve as a police officer?
30 years,
And what about a firefighter? How long?
about 17.
Thank you. Lower all flags tomorrow for Patriots Day, Mayor. Just want to remind everybody.
Very good, thank you. All right, John, anything?
I just want to add to what Nick reported. I believe ODOT, and maybe Nick can verify, they're going to close that southbound ramp to 82 here shortly. Remember seeing that email, Nick?
That's correct.
I believe it's going to be October, end of September, October.
Yeah, beginning of October, we don't have the confirmed date yet, but that southbound ramp will be closed.
For 30 days, so folks are going to have to start thinking about how they're going to get around town for those up to 30 days, I think it is. So that obviously means there's going to be congestion on other routes coming into the city, North Bedford, Shepherd Road, 82, all those things, because folks aren't going to be able to get off at 82, whether they get off in Oakwood or continue further south to Route 8. But for 30 days, we're going to lose that ramp. And the other thing is, I don't know if folks saw, but I talked to a gentleman from South Bedford. We have that light operational. We're still trying to work out some of the kinks. It's not going to be perfect. There's just too much traffic on Highland Road. But I think maybe, possibly, maybe we might have what's going to be acceptable, maybe. We still need to look at it. I went through there the other day after hours, and it wasn't quite right. I asked Signal Service to make some more changes. So we're hoping maybe possibly we have it to where it's acceptable for the traffic flow that we have. It's for the South Bedford folks and for all those traveling on Highland Road. So maybe we have that fixed.
And I want to thank you, because between you and Vince, you're over there almost every single day. So they're not just blowing smoke. You really are trying. John, do you have anything to add? No, I'm not advanced. Would you like to say anything tonight? Do you have anything pressing?
Nothing pressing at this time. We're just working on some stormwater projects right now. Completed 3 catch basins, and we're working on additional 6. We're concentrating on the ones that are completely failing with holes in the roads before moving on to driveway culverts and ditching. Great All's still giving us problems at times with some breakdowns, but we have it up and going again. So hopefully next week we'll have a crew starting on the ditching and driveway culverts that residents have been waiting for.
Thank you.
John and Tom, John is our foreman, and Tom is in charge of the parks. And I have a lot of people have asked about what's going on at Sugar Bush. If you guys can give us an update since you're here on Sugar Bush.
What we're doing at Sugar Bush right now is just completing the final grading work. The next week we have a contractor coming in. He's going to pour handicap parking for us, and we'll be seating as soon as they get done. That park, it's come along pretty good. It's taken us a long time. We're so short of people, though. We're having a lot of trouble.
He's been there by himself.
I've been there by
working
myself
on the
for
park,
2 months.
getting dirt delivered there because of the shortage of manpower that we have. And with the other park, like with Memorial Park that we've been working on, we've had crews there and handling our stormwater issues. He's been there on his own with a piece of equipment, getting dirt delivered to grade everything out to make everything with the appearance, with the aesthetics.
Thank you for doing
I
that.
did have a question for John Golden about now that busing has gone to the perimeter of 1 mile and out, have you seen an improvement any place in terms of the traffic?
The high school has seen an improvement. We're not seeing traffic backed up in front of the high school after hours. We're seeing some issues with Ledgeview School. We met with the principal there, Jolene, and worked out some issues. She made some announcements to some of the folks who pick up the kids. We wanted to go another week to see how things worked out. We're probably going to have to talk to her Monday or Tuesday and do a few more things, a few more modifications to how they're releasing their students.
I see.
But
Ledgeview
busing has helped. One of the problems, Sylvia, is busing for that age student. We have Rushwood in Sagamore, we have Northfield Elementary, and we have Ledgeview. And a lot of those kids are local to those schools as opposed to the high school where they come from all of Nordonia Hills or the middle school. So busing didn't resolve a lot of those issues as it did for the higher classes, higher grades. So we still have some issues we're working on. It's gotten better from when it started. I put some things on Facebook to help folks out, give them ideas how they can fix things. She sent some messages out in her text things or contact thing to the parents, and that's helped a little bit. One of the problems was parents were coming an hour early. And, you know, and I explained to her why some folks are doing that. And, you know, she tried to address that. But we need to make a few more changes. And I think if we make one change that we thought about, we should have all the cars off of Shepherd Road during dismissal.
Yeah, that's been one of the things that happened, and when we were considering this, I'm on the finance committee for the schools, and we were talking about this, and the complaint we heard from parents was Ledgeview was very vulnerable to traffic problems because the majority of children going to Ledgeview are not being bused. And that's probably the biggest challenge at this point.
Nick has brought this up last couple of years. Nick's talked to me about it the past couple of years. We've worked with the schools. Donna was fantastic. Donna Bambeck was fantastic to work with up there. We've talked about utilizing the church property for some folks. I mean, we've looked at a lot of options to get this situation resolved. You know, and each where we try to tweak things, and you have a new set of parents coming in there. So we're still working on it. It's gotten a lot better. It's not perfect. I think we can get it even better than what it was, and that should resolve the issue. But we also have, you know, even though Lee Eaton isn't in Macedonia, part of the traffic situation there is, and they have probably just as many traffic issues there as we do on Shepherd Road. So there are issues around town. So.
Are we patrolling Lee? No, is that because of that? You know, it's split right there. So you.
Northfield has an officer out there.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. And you know, today I was working with Rob Eckenrode at the high school. I know folks in the audience mentioned getting traffic out of the high school after the football game, and I know most people won't hear this before the football game, but we had only folks exiting out of the South Drive last time. We're going to try exiting out of both drives, except those coming out of the South Drive will have to turn right and go south to Highland. Those coming out of the North Drive will have to go left, which is north to 82. We're going to try that. It's a tough situation we have down there after the football game. A lot of people come to the games, and you know, it's tough getting everybody out of there.
That's been actually ongoing since
forever.
I'd say it when I went to high school.
And the issue was somewhat improved this year because they no longer park across the street at the Ball Diamond. And, you know, when you look at, you have traffic coming out of the North Drive, the South Drive, the bus garage, the Ball Diamond Cross. Well, you've got all these people exiting. Who do you stop and who do you let go? I've got an officer running the light at Highland to keep that traffic constantly flowing, but it's just not easy. You have limited access to that place, and it makes it more difficult.
Thank you, John.
Thanks.
I know you tried. All right, Joe.
Yes, Mayor, today we received a summons and a complaint in the mail against the city of Macedonia by the Gardens at Highlands subdivision in the city. They are taking action against one of their property owners who are seriously delinquent on paying their fees. As a result, the normal course requires them to include the city as a defendant in order to protect the city's interest and the city's financial claims that it might have against the property owners or the homeowners association. Similar to the Farnhurst curse case where we were included in that, the plaintiffs in that case included the city in that as well. I understand that these things come. I've been doing municipal work for cities for over 40 years. It's my duty to defend that case, and it's my duty to defend all the other cases. At the last council meeting, the 3 members of council over here chose not to pass the additional appropriations that the finance department requested that are necessary to fund these defenses of the city. They're necessary to continue the northbound ramp on 271, the legal work necessary for that. It's necessary for the widening of 82. It's necessary for a dozen other pending legal matters that your law director and his firm have been handling for this city at a very minimal hourly rate. I think it's retaliatory. I think council should do something to try and override this in order that the law department can be paid for the work that it's obligated to do on behalf of the city. The Gabriel property can't be purchased without legal work being done. Any actions on this agenda tonight can't be done without the legal work being handled in one way or another, whether it's employee contracts, legislation, whatever it might be. So I would encourage the balance of council to try and do something to override this and get things taken care of so that we can proceed for the defense of the city and be compensated for it. That's all I have.
All right. Is there any unfinished business or new business?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to also talk about 9/11 just briefly. I was in Arlington, Virginia, Crystal City, a little less than a quarter mile from the Pentagon on 9/11. And the shock of what happened there still kind of reverberates in my head. I was on the 9th floor of a building with a large staff, and one of the British exchange officers came to me, who was reporting to me, and said that we had a really, really serious problem he had just been alerted to. And that was actually regarding the World Trade Center in New York. Within 10 minutes, we heard an explosion so loud that I can still hear it. It was fantastic. And the reverberation, and that was the airplane going into the Pentagon. And then, as I found out later, where it entered the Pentagon was where a couple of friends of mine were sitting with the Army Deputy Chief of Staff for Personnel, a place that I had sat 3 weeks earlier. And they were all killed, of course. They're buried in the burial area around the Pentagon. So the emotion of this always sort of gets to me, but I will tell you this. Everybody who was at the Pentagon that day was a hero. And the people who survived that, as the mayor said earlier, there have been many people who had burns, who had injuries because of the way that plane went into the Pentagon. So I'd like to honor everyone today who was involved in that. Thank you.
All right, a little bit of new business. Tomorrow we're going to have a special council meeting.
Well, I think you need to make that clear.
3:30.
Okay, wait.
Yes,
It's marked as a Manor House meeting.
Right.
Yes.
So, and there will be other people present.
Right.
But it wasn't posted as a council meeting.
Right.
All right,
So,
thank you.
I mean, and maybe Mr. Deemer can address this, they're just meeting to talk about the Manor House. There's no, they can't take any action on anything.
Right,
Okay.
right.
This is
No,
just
it can't be considered a special council meeting.
Right, that's exactly what I'm trying to point out.
And that was what I was trying to say, but you do
Okay,
it
I'm
much
sorry, I got
better.
so nervous when you said it,
Yeah,
sir, I
yeah.
just.
There
right
is
at
a
the bit.
special meeting and
Right.
you know that nothing's really gonna happen there, but we are gonna discuss.
Right.
It's
And-
Manor House meeting Friday, September 11th at 3:30 PM at council chambers or council caucus, depending on how many
Right.
people attend.
And Don, I would like to, I was not done, I was gonna do on unfinished business. I would like to thank we purchased some vehicles, some trucks tonight, and I wanted to say thank you to Mr. Robert Roloff, the mechanic. I had spoke with Mr. Roloff extensively and trying to find out what all the service department needs in order to do their jobs. And I found out that there was a lot of issues when I spoke with Mr. Roloff and John Notavan and several other service workers. Their concerns about equipment and, of course, finance is gonna start having some meetings on this about looking at the stuff that, the service department needs. I think the service department still needs, they spoke tonight, one of them is working alone, and I've said from day one that our service department is suffering, not only with equipment, they are suffering with personnel, and I have felt strongly about this for a long time. And I think that we need to continue having meetings with John and some of his members of the service department in order to find out what all you guys actually need, so that we can move forward and make sure that you guys are taken care of. And I just wanted to say that Mr. Roloff played a big part in helping to get this equipment tonight. Thank you, and congratulations again, Jan, on your new grandbaby.
Is there any other new business?
Yes, Mayor, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead. You go first.
I'd also like to extend a thank you to our finance department and our service department. They have both worked without a director for quite some time now, and I know Mr. Notavange has, taken on the role of acting service director and foreman. So your efforts are appreciated. I don't want you to think that they're not. And the presentation that you worked on with Bob, that you presented to us, I think was great, and it gave us a great picture as to where we are and what we need. So thanks to both departments, and be patient. I think coming very soon, we should be able to resolve the lack of a leader in your departments.
Anything else?
Okay, real quick. I can't believe that the chief didn't mention Nixle with all that's going on. Don't forget to use Nixle. With all the roads that are going on, it's the best thing ever to get on your phone. Just say, hey, this road's closed, this one's open. By the way, we've got this accident, or we don't have an accident. I have to do that PR all the time.
It's free. It's
Second
free.
of all, Brianna, I'd like to say thank you to you. Your article on 9/11 was absolutely wonderful. It was emotional to read. The pictures were wonderful. If you haven't checked out the news leader this week of her article, it was from the heart, and I appreciate that you took the time to do that. We put aside sometimes all this bickering and and it goes on, the loud noise, I like to call it. It's time that sometimes we step back and look at those things. And then, of course, the thank you to the VFW and to our American Legion. I don't care if you've served 2 years, 4 years, 20 years, 30 years, as my sister-in-law's father did. You served.
Right.
I didn't. I appreciate every hour that you gave to your service, whether you were on the ground in combat or not. Thank you for taking the time, and thank you tonight. It was a great honor to have you here.
Right.
Very
Thank you.
good. Any other new business? All right, now we're going to go into executive session. Executive session is a meeting of council behind closed doors. When we come back out, there will be no further business conducted. The meeting will be adjourned. So as it stands right now, the meeting is over. We thank you very much for coming this evening. We look forward to seeing you next time. We will go into executive session. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session, a motion to adjourn into executive session for the purpose of discussing merit increases for the recreation director, building commissioner, and police chief, and also regarding personnel issues.
Second.
Yeah, I know. Ms. Gerald?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Ms. Hannikin?
Yes.
Mr. Molnar?
No.
And Ms. Tully?
I'm yes for the ones that we talked about. I didn't know we were gonna add something else on, so I guess I'm a no, because I don't like surprises that we haven't discussed.
Mr. Deemer, she didn't
So it's a
identify
no.
personnel issues. Does she need to identify?
Yeah, you gotta be specific on personnel if you wanna make it a valid issue.
Do you want to elaborate, Ms. Durham?
Do you want to elaborate on what language is needed?
Well, I'm asking her if she needs,
Yeah, I
she
know, I'm
wants to,
asking you.
well,
made
Mr.
a
Deemer's there,
motion.
should ask.
I know. You're the clerk.
We've gone into executive session before, just saying personnel issues, and we've never.
But
had
we
to
knew
deal
what
with
they
that
were going to
relations
be
and
about.
so-
If you've got a different opinion, then rely on it.
Have the right to vote no.
You don't wanna listen to your law director and all this?
Ms. Tully? Ms. Tully, what was your vote?
No?
All right, thank you for coming.
Not that I don't appreciate everything everybody else has done. You're asking. No regard.